Coming up, what an excellent day for directing. Well, howdy, folks, and welcome to Minute 14 of The Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
And we will be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. And yes, once again, folks, we have Andy Nelson with us. His voice might sound familiar if you listen to the Marvel Movie Minute show on the True Story FM network. Andy has also done an episode on The Exorcist in his other show, The Next Reel, and I highly recommend you go and check that out. Welcome back, Andy.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here to talk more about The Exorcist. It is a delightful, delightful film to discuss.
Like just good family fun.
Just wonderful. It's a 4-quadrant film if I've ever seen it.
Yes.
All right. So our minute begins with a shot of the rooftops of Georgetown University.
Wait. Keenan, are we sure that this is a university? Or I don't know, maybe it's a museum of antiquities. I mean, really, who can say? Sorry. I'm done. I promise. And it ends with a group of students shouting. Actually, they are actors playing students. Actually, they are actors playing students. Dude, that is so meta. And speaking of meta, there's a lot of actors playing actors, or actors playing directors, or writer-producers working as actors playing writer-producers. What is this minute? It's nuts.
It's such a fun minute setting up a sense of more about who Chris is. You know, we kind of saw her home life, and now we're really getting to see her at work in the field. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot about it. But what I find so interesting about it that is really picking up on this time is just how ritualistic everything in her particular job is. And really in the industry as a whole, like everybody has their own little rituals, and we see a lot of that happening here.
Yeah, and this is one of the more accurate depictions of what acting is and the relationship with the director and all of that is. When we were making movies during the studio system, during the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, we would have a lot of movies about movies, but they gave people the exact wrong impressions of how an actor works and how a director works.
What I like about this minute is that it starts like a bad joke. I can hear someone, presumably the AD, shouting over the megaphone. It's like, okay, I need a priest, a nun, and 2 students. And at first you're like, what? And then you realize, oh, they're shooting a movie.
Right.
Yeah. We get some shots of lights, of cameras, and a whole lot of action as actors and extras and crew members are all bustling about, getting ready to shoot the next scene in this film within a film.
Yeah, we have a lot of sound bridges, which is the, some might call it a pre-lap if we're hearing the sound of the next scene over the previous scene. That are really disorienting. We were talking about that sound of the plane when Father Marin goes away, and then we get to Georgetown, and how it sort of leads us into thinking all sorts of things, like was Father Marin on a plane or what have you. But this is one of those.
Plane.
Yes, Pazuzu on a plane. This is one of the that makes it. Yeah, it's like, oh, it starts with this weird thing that sounds like a joke, and then in Austin Powers, when he gets hit on the head or something, he says, "I need an old priest and a young priest."
Right. Yeah.
It sounds very similar to this.
Sound bridge. Okay, that's a word that I'm going to put in my pocket.
Oh yeah, sound bridge. Because of the way that nonlinear editing works now, like when you're looking at your audio lines, some people call them L cuts, which is where the sound from the next scene comes in into the previous scene, because you can kind of it's sort of an L if you hold up your finger and thumb, and then a J cut would be the opposite, where we're hearing the sound that is from the previous scene going into the next scene. But that's the more modern terminology for it. But yeah, a sound bridge has existed since the creation of sound in the 20s.
God, I'm learning so many words now. It's like L cuts and J cuts and sound bridges and pareidolia and polymorphia, and this is just an educational podcast, if ever I heard one. So if you look closely in this scene, you might see a very special cameo in the form of William Peter Blatty himself, the author of the book.
And the screenplay.
Here, playing the part of the producer. And again, he did produce this film. Not this film, but this film. Well, I guess this film too, right? However, he is eclipsed by the grandiose acting of is it MacGowran or MacGowan?
Oh, I don't really know how to pronounce Irish names, so it's probably something.
Yeah. Okay.
MacGorren.
Jack
MacGorren. Yeah.
MacGorren.
Like Saoirse Ronan when she would have to introduce people, to her name. She would say, my name is Saoirse like inertia, and she'd have to like come up with a little rime like that. So I don't know how MacGowran MacGowan.
Yeah, like something, yeah.
Like something. Yeah, Irish friends can write us in.
Yes, please. I'm tempted to just say MacGowan, but there's an R in there.
I think on the commentary, I think Friedkin says MacGowran with.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so he pronounces everything. Great.
Yeah, just as long as we're not getting it like yeah. As long as we're not getting it like 100% right, like it's MacGorren or something like that. It'd be like, oh my god.
Or like Donald Gleason, like like Domhnall Hall Gleason from the Star Wars movies is really just Donald Gleason.
I thought it was Donald, like Donald. I was told it was Donald without a D on the end.
Oh
Donald.
gosh.
Okay.
And he's one of my favorite movie stars, so it's and I can't pronounce his name. So
we need Max von Sydow here. Sydow. So
yeah, right.
Jack MacGowan, who is an actor who is playing a director. Jesus, I cannot keep my head straight. This is director Burke Dennings, who, and I know I said this in the previous minute about Willie and Carl, but I think this is one of my favorite characters. Now, Keenan, you know a little bit more about the actor Jack MacGowan. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, he's a really important theater actor. So, a lot of that work I haven't seen because he was working in, the 50s. He became one of the primary performers of Samuel Beckett's work. So he was in Waiting for Godot and played Lucky, which is the best part. I don't know. Did you do Godot? Did you ever do that?
I've seen a production of it. Yes.
Oh, I thought maybe you had played one of the main people. You should play Astro or one of them. But yeah, Lucky is my favorite because Lucky is like this human horse. It's a mime part basically. He doesn't have any lines.
Oh,
so yeah, he comes in and he acts like a horse and like fed things and that kind of thing. And MacGowran was also in Beckett's Endgame, and then he released an LP of him reading Beckett. So or performing Beckett rather. So he had a record that was a hit that was going out, and it was Jack MacGowran reading Beckett. So he was associated with that. And if you don't know Beckett, like Beckett is absurdist. He is he has plays that you can read as being about nothing, but being about everything, right? The existence of meaning in the universe, real existentialist, and so that's where MacGowan is primarily known for. And then in the movies, he's in a bunch of movies, usually playing Irish people in the beginning, like in John Ford's The Quiet Man, which is set in Ireland, but then also is in Dr. Zhivago. He has a really cool role in Roman Polanski's Cul-de-sac, which is this really mean thriller that is Beckett-like. That's sort of on an island that, depending on what time of day you're on, the tides are coming in or the tides are coming out. And it's a home invasion thriller, and the gangsters come in and terrorize this couple, and they can't leave because the tide is up. And MacGowran's character is a gangster who is wounded, and he's in this. It's really mean. Well, I'm laughing because it's so awful, but he's a gangster who's been wounded. And they can't move him out of the car, and the car gets stuck in the tide. And so he's just back there, and then you cut back to him every once in a while, and the tide is getting higher and higher on his face. He's like, But that's the kind of thing that he liked. And The Exorcist is actually his last film. So he died soon after that while he was working on a play in New York, and he had this London flu epidemic that took him out.
Before the movie opened too, right? Yeah.
Oh, is that? Oh, I didn't know the timeline of that, but that's pretty. That's unfortunate. Yeah.
He was in, going back to our Shakespeare conversation in the last episode. He played the fool in King Lear, that Peter Brook directed, which is a very difficult one to find, but it's my favorite version of that.
Yeah, story. I haven't seen that one. That's Schofield, Paul Schofield as
really fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, well, look at that. It's all coming back. Wow. That is
our Shakespeare trap for the day.
It is. That is our Shakespeare trap. Well, just to linger here a little longer. So Schofield in Lear, that specific movie is mentioned by Carl in the book when, what's his name? Not Columbo.
Peter Falk?
Peter Falk, yeah. No.
Kinderman, Lieutenant
Kinderman. There we
go. Like Peter Falk.
Oh my God. Oh, what a trip. Okay. No. When Kinderman is questioning him, he's like, "Where did you go?" And he says, "I went to see Paul Schofield in Lear." And I was just like, was Blatty on a King Lear kick? He names this girl Reagan. He make a Goneril joke, and now Carl is going to see movies, and he's seeing Paul Schofield in Lear.
Did we talk about the Carmen coincidence on the show?
Oh yeah, you
we were
mentioned,
talking about it. Were we
yes.
were we on the air? I can't remember if I'm going to bore the.
I think
the
it was.
again.
I'm bringing it up. No. I bring it up actually in my notes in the next minute, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that so this is from Roger Ebert's little mini movie glossary, and he talks about he has all these really interesting little just sort of snarky ideas. Like there's the Kevin Kline mustache rule. If Kevin Kline is wearing a mustache, it's a comedy. If he's shaven, it's it's a drama. The Gandhi movie, which is the movie that you can like and maybe even love and consider it a masterpiece, but you only have to see once, is a Gandhi movie.
Oh,
that's funny.
And he says the Carmen coincidence. So like whenever a character is watching a movie or watching an opera, say Carmen, that the movie, the opera they're watching is relevant to the themes of the movie, because just the nature of not wanting to have superfluous, extraneous themes going around. They should watch something that's relevant to them. So I've been having trouble as we're getting ready for this. Like, what is this movie that we're watching Chris starring in? Like, like is it relevant? And again, we were having trouble with this with like, why would we name our character Reagan? It just feels like such a an odd name at the time. And now I have friends who are named Reagan. It's not that strange.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Keenan. So okay, back to Jack MacGorren. So I'm really curious as to how much of Burke Dennings' character is influenced by Blatty from the book, or by Friedkin, the director, or by Jack himself. Like, I wonder if Friedkin is directing this director and thinking, okay, what would a director do? Should I have him play it like me? Like, okay, Mr. MacGowan, in this scene, you're just a horrible human being and you treat everyone like garbage, especially your actors, right? But no, that can't be, because we see that Burke is very warm and affectionate towards Chris, his star. We see Chris emerging from her trailer, and she calls out to Burke. And I love this because Burke, who was already ignoring the producer, Blatty, ignores him further when he turns to acknowledge Chris. And Blatty, he's just trying so hard to get him to listen. And Burke just walks away like he's not even there. But we are going to listen to Blatty because he does a wonderful job describing this character in his book. So here we go. A reading from the Book of Blatty. Hey, Burke, take a look at this damn thing, will ya? Oh, you do have a script, I see. How nice. Director Burke Dennings, taut and elfin, left eye twitching yet gleaming with mischief, surgically shaved a narrow strip from a page of her script with quivering fingers. I believe I'll munch, he cackled. They were standing on the esplanade that fronted the administration building and were knotted in the center of actors, lights, technicians, extras, grips. Here and there a few spectators dotted the lawn, mostly Jesuit faculty. Numbers of children. The cameraman, bored, picked up Daily Variety as Dennings put the paper in his mouth and giggled, his breath reeking faintly of the morning's first gin. Yes, I'm terribly glad you have been given a script. A sly, frail man in his 50s, he spoke with a charmingly broad British accent, so clipped and precise that it lofted even the crudest obscenities to elegance. And when he drank, he seemed always on the verge of guffaw, seemed constantly struggling to maintain his composure. Now then, tell me, my baby, what is it? What's wrong? The scene in question called for the dean of the mythical college in the script to address a gathering of students in an effort to squelch a threatened sit-in. Chris would then run up the steps on the esplanade, tear the bullhorn away from the dean, and then point to the main administration building and shout, "Let's tear it down." It just doesn't make any sense, said Chris. Well, it's perfectly plain, lied Dennings. Why the heck would they tear the building down, Burke? What for? Are you sending me up? No, I'm asking what for. Because it's there, loves. In the script? No, on the grounds. Well, it doesn't make sense, Burke. She just wouldn't do that. She would. No, she wouldn't. Shall we summon the writer? I believe he's in Paris. Hiding. Fucking. He'd clipped it off with impeccable diction, fox eyes glinting in a face like dough as the word rose crisp to Gothic spires. Chris fell weak to his shoulders, laughing. Oh, Burke, you're impossible, damn it. Yes. He said it like Caesar, modestly confirming reports of his triple rejection of the crown. Oh. I love that. I love that last line. That Caesar line. And here we get this exchange, which sort of subverts expectations again. Here, Chris is complaining about the scene in the script. Now, you would think a director like Burke would be annoyed, or at the very least ignore her like he ignored the producer. But no, he gives her all his attention. In fact, he turns and notices her with such a look of, relief, joy. He's so glad she's here, but not in a like, oh, thank God my actor is here way. More like oh, good, my friend is here way. And even their argument is playful. Again, we could paint Chris as this diva complaining about the script and Burke as this harried director who is just trying to placate her. But no, we have this fun little argument where Chris is just trying to find the truth of the scene, and Burke, like a good director and a good mentor, knows how to deal with her and is even able to break the tension with a joke. He gets everyone laughing, and Chris embraces him, and we see that these two are more than just director and actor. They are dear friends.
That feels a lot more like what the director-actor relationship is in a functional set, as opposed to, again, like how the movies portray the movies in the studio system, where, you know, the typical scene is the actor comes to set, they haven't read the script, the director says, now, darling, this is the scene where you go up to the stairs and you have this man here and he's playing your husband. And they're like, oh, yes, I wouldn't have been able to figure this out on my own. Like, I need the director hand puppeting me to figure this out. Right. Yeah. That's very, very typical. And so, you know, I teach a lot of film students, and they still have this sort of somewhere deep in their collective cultural memory that this is how directors work. The actors are stupid. They have no opinions of their own. And the director gives them all to them, as opposed to this, which is like about a legitimate question of motivation. About why am I doing this? I can't find in the script. Both Burke and Chris sort of don't like the script. We get that implication, yes. Which I guess, you know, makes sense when you're the author of a novel, but now when you're the screenwriter, to also have, you know, these people complaining about the screenwriter, you know, that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to that about I wonder how much it hits home for Blatty to be playing this producer to this other actor who's playing a director who's not listening to him. Because we're going to talk a little bit more about that, about Friedkin and Blatty's disagreements as the film goes on, and as we see those minutes specifically.
Well, I think what I find so interesting about the relationship that we have with these characters is they're, again, just like there is such a performative nature to everything that we're seeing here. It's like, this isn't a studio picture. We are on a campus watching these two doing a scene that involves a huge crowd of people that are actors playing these students. But also, I mean, we see that they've got the barricades up. There are a bunch of onlookers here who are also watching, and we see a number of the people watching, obviously close enough to be listening in on all of these conversations. So I think I think there's this very performative nature also to the way that these two are playing it. And I think there's a serious nature to her questions, albeit in my head, I'm always like, these are the sorts of questions that hopefully they would have already had discussions about, not like the moment right before she's walking on to perform it. But, you know, all that aside, it is this sense of these two kind of, and maybe, who knows, maybe there is this sense of, this is something else that often you have with actors and directors, where they build up kind of a way to kind of get themselves psyched up and ready. And maybe this is part of the way that as an actress that she is, you know, performing, and she needs to kind of have these questions spinning around in her head so that she's ready to jump into the role. And, you know, it already is kind of like spinning about thinking about these elements.
Right. On a lot of functional relationships with actors and directors, oftentimes an actor will spend the first rehearsal or the first couple of actually film takes, like making sure the director is seeing them, like actually seeing them, as opposed to just, you know, oh, did she say the lines correctly and then moving on, right? So, you know, when it's dysfunctional, then we get a lot of great, you know, Hollywood anecdotes about, say, Marlon Brando again. You know, you say he used to say that when he was trying out a new director, he would give them one take where he was giving it his all, and one take where he was phoning it in. And then depending on which one the director printed, that is, which one he chose, then he would know how to spend the rest of his energy. Like, is this worth my time to actually give it all out here? But in a functional relationship, right, I think Andy's exactly right. Like there is, there's a lot of ramp up and there's a lot of nervous energy on a movie set. And we don't have, I guess, an indication about, is this the first day that we're shooting here on location in Georgetown or not? So like even just getting used to, you know, a company move across the country.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first take. I mean, as we see when we see the slate, it's the, you know, they've already done this, a number of times. It was 37H take 4, right? Is that what it was?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, they've been at it for a little while. Again, we don't know if it's the start of the day or where, but still, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and trying to keep, as an actress, especially when you're in a scene where you're performing at the head of a group of people, you know, like she really has to kind of build up that internal energy to run in there and do what she needs to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's also tricky, right, when you're playing a character who is nervous. Like, so now as an actor, you have all of that mixed in. Like, yes, I need to get rid of my own nerves in order to perform the scene, but then put on the character's nerves. That's not quite how it works. But find the character's nerves from the inside and work outward, or however you want to put it.
Yeah.
Right. And then just pointing that out, like Andy was saying. So this would be H, hotel. They say when they're running the slate. So that would be whatever number of the alphabet H is, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So the eighth, the ninth setup of the day, actually.
Yeah.
Or at least of the scene, rather.
Of the scene, yeah, of scene 37, right. The where do you two stand on the way you read the relationship between Burke and Chris outside of this? I mean, obviously it's way beyond my minutes, but there is that conversation later that she has with Reagan about what she's getting out of kind of the gossip magazines that she's reading about perhaps there might be a little more going on between these two. And I wonder if there's an element, at least the way that the actors are playing it here, that if we're meant to read that there's anything more going on there.
Yeah. Keenan, you go first on this.
Oh, I wanted you to go first. Go first.
Well, I mean, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but there is a little bit more of that in the book, and it is completely platonic. It is almost like parental. He is like a mentor to her. We're going to find out that she gets offered an opportunity to direct her own film, and she's really excited about that. And she goes to him as this kind of mentor and says, "Oh, Burke, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I have it in me." And he talks her up, and he kind of plays the Yoda to her Luke, I guess, and just kind of like assuring her, it's like, no, you can definitely do it. I know you. I've worked with you. I see you. Not only are we friends, but I know how good you are at what you do. And the counterpoint to that is that Burke is this kind of just sad, lonely guy. He's an alcoholic as well. And he is very, very abrasive with other people. He angers everybody that he comes into contact with. We see that in Carl, but like he also just kind of like pisses off everybody on set. But he does this in a way, Chris recognizes that he's kind of like playing a part, like he's living up to his legend, as Blatty puts it, because people know him. He's the notorious kind of like director who flies off the handle whenever he's had like one or two drinks, but he makes these amazing films. So everybody just kind of like takes that as part and parcel of the great Burke Dennings. But like when he's alone with Chris, he's kind of a different person. He's in his cups. He's drunk, but he is. He's a little bit more reflective and introspective. But like he spends a lot of time with Chris because he's lonely, and he can't make close friends because of his abrasiveness. And so Chris is the only one that he can kind of confide in. And so I think Reagan picks that up, and it's like, hey, Burke's hanging around here a lot. And, are you going to, like we're going to see, like she's worried that, Chris is going to marry him.
That's really interesting, the thought that Chris MacNeil would get to direct a film, because so few women were directing films in Hollywood at the time. I mean, really, it is Elaine May, who is the sketch and writing partner of Mike Nichols, who's directing films in Hollywood. And that is about it. And I don't mean to be reductive, but that's about it, unless Andy can think of anybody else, in 1971 when Peter Blatty is writing this book. So that's quite a statement.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was like Dorothy Arzner before that, but I mean, that was back in the 30s, 40s, so obviously a little earlier. So it
Hollywood
is few and far
basically,
between.
Gave like one woman at a time a chance. Yeah, so it was like Lois Weber, and then Dorothy Arzner, and then Isla Pino, and then they would take turns.
It's like one at a time, ladies.
Yeah, exactly, one at a time. Yeah, so that's really interesting there. But what I have always read Burke as, I think even when I was seeing this as a teenager and not quite fully aware of my queerness, is that Burke is gay. I mean, so the only way I've ever been able to read the film is that he's Chris's gay best friend.
That's and I kind of read it that way too, which is interesting, because I think there's I think I don't know if this would end up being kind of a stereotype of reading it, but there is a stronger connection that he has between or the way the characters are between Burke and Chris, because
Right.
he's has a more open and honest relationship with her because of that, and they're not trying to get into a relationship or anything.
Right. Yeah. He dresses stylishly, if not a little outdated, because he's a little bit older than them. But he doesn't dress like Billy Friedkin, who wears like a leather jacket and stuff like that, right? He dresses a little bit outdatedly, a little bit, but stylishly. He's got like velvet. His coat is like velvet in this scene, and he's just a little fey, and he's a little quippy, and he, these are the kind of things that we would do in Hollywood when we were trying to encode a character as being queer. So we had coded queer cinema, where it deals with stereotypes. So a lot of my students today tend not to like this kind of talk. It's like, not all gay people are like this, not all lesbians are like this, but that's how you would communicate to an audience that they were gays, but dealing with stereotypes when you weren't able to say things dialogue wise.
Right.
So,
and especially a movie in the early 70s.
So you couldn't do like today, you can have a queer show like Love Victor or something like that. And then you can have 3 or 4 different gay boys, and they're all a little bit different. Right. So that you don't have to deal with stereotypes as much, but in a movie of the old days, you'd have one character and you needed to communicate it. So you would deal with stereotypes. You didn't have the opportunity to say like, oh, he's not what I would think of as a gay man, right? Or he's not what I would think of as a lesbian. And we'll talk about Mercedes McCambridge later on, but she was someone who routinely played coded queer lesbian characters.
Well, there's, I think even in the context of that, and this might be, far too meta thinking about some of the elements in the film, but in the nature of a film that deals with such ritualistic aspects as we do in this film, dealing with the actual rite of the exorcism and the way you go through that, when you look at like in the scope of what these two are doing in their jobs, their rituals. I mentioned that earlier, how, they both have a ritual on the film set as to how things are done. Her rituals as an actress, getting herself, amped up and ready to jump into the scene. We've got, the rituals of the hair, makeup, and wardrobe people right before she runs out there, that they're doing their last looks, and the way that all of those little rituals take place. And then, on the meta side of it, like the rituals of making a coded character in films in 1973, and the way that the director and the writer would kind of craft those characters, and that the actor would perform it. It's like there's so much ritual going on in the process of putting a film like this together. It's really interesting, inside and out.
Oh man, I really like that. That is cool. Thank you guys. So now, right before we cut away, you can see her as she's hugging Burke. She looks up at someone in the crowd, and we see that it's a priest. Now, is this another actor? Is this the priest that, the AD was shouting about? It's like, I need a priest, a nun, and 2 students. Or is it a real priest? Georgetown University is a Jesuit school, so there are real priests running around. We don't know yet. We don't really meet this character just yet. So like Reagan in the previous minute, we're going to hold off on introducing him for now, because now the lights are focused, the camera is rolling, our AD has called action. We have 3 men huddling around Chris as she gets ready. I assume this is like a touch-up crew, wardrobe, hair, and makeup, that sort of thing. Yeah. I'm looking now, and on closer inspection, I'm going to guess that, the guy on the far left is makeup. We see him doing like a little touch-up. He also has a brush in his mouth. The middle guy, I'm not sure.
He's
the guy,
hair. He's got a little comb that you'll see him
there we go. Okay, so the middle guy is hair. And the guy on the right is definitely wardrobe. Not only because he's looking at her clothes, but also because he is wearing literally everything. He's got a hat, he's got a scarf, he's got this flowy black top and what looks like a pearl bracelet. So yeah, he is wardrobe for sure.
I was trying so hard to find because they're not credited, and I was looking, I'm like, is this the actual hair, makeup, wardrobe team from the film?
Yeah.
Like,
That's a great question.
Is Joseph Fretwell III, the costume designer, is that him doing the touch-ups on the wardrobe? And, is it Dick Smith? Is it William Farley? I couldn't tell, because I couldn't find any pictures of them in the early 70s to really be able to compare them. So, but that is something that ran through my head.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's also like talking about, psyching yourself up, right? She's also getting ready. She's mentally preparing for the scene. And the guy in the back, you guys said it's hair, right? He takes something out of his jean jacket from the pocket and he offers it to her. I couldn't make out what it was. Did you guys catch that? It looks like a little red case of something, like maybe gum or cigarettes or something like that. It also kind of looks like a touch-up sponge. I don't know, but he offers it to her and she kind of brushes it away in this kind of distracted, almost annoyed gesture. And again, we might be tempted to think, oh God, what a diva treating these people like that. But Keenan, as a director yourself, having worked with actors yourself and having worked as both an actor and a director, I'm curious what you made of this little gesture, because it happens so quickly. And I think our mind could catch it and think that she's being like mean or ungrateful here.
Yeah, I don't read it that way. I know why some people would, but yeah, oftentimes an actor is in their headspace and they're performing usually before. I mean, this is the kind of modern actors that would come up after Brando in the 50s. What's often sort of shorthanded as the method actors. They would perform before. They wouldn't, just be able to turn it on and off on a dime like some of the other actors, like Olivier had been trained to do before.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think that it's necessarily rude at all, and we see that sort of in the reactions of the crew people. Like they understand it. They don't go, oh my God, what a terrible thing that she's done here, and not saying thank you. My problem on my first feature as an actor is that I had to turn off my the politeness that had been ingrained in me by my Asian parents. I don't know. I was on a game show. And it had to be pointed out to me by my boyfriend afterwards when he said, you always said, please, can I have this category for this amount, please? Every single time. So I didn't know I was doing that. It's just ingrained in me. But yeah, as an actor, I had to just understand that like the milliseconds or let's say seconds it would take me to say like, oh, thank you so much, like I would normally do, was actually eating into my time getting ready for the take. Right.
You'd sort of have to take that preparation that you've been building and putting on so carefully. You'd have to like take it off like a coat just to thank somebody, and then now you got to button it all back up again.
Yeah, I wish I was the kind of actor who could switch back and forth. I really do think about that, but I just had to accept that that's not the kind of actor I am, and then and it really does pain me to be what I would think of as brusque or something. The crew, of course, when they're used to this, they don't see it as brusque at all. But I just see my grandparents thinking about me. Yeah, like how rude of him.
Yeah, when you're in there for last looks, I mean, that's usually like everything is like at a very heightened moment. And oftentimes, like, you'll have people say, we don't have time for last looks, and just get going. And you just have to like, bail on whatever it is you're about to touch up and say, well, all right, like they're going to go for it anyway. And this is a take that's already started. Like the actors are already going and everything. And so they're kind of doing the last moments of the last looks, and so she's already kind of in the space of getting herself into the role. And so it makes sense for her to kind of brush them away because they're pulling her out of her performance.
Right. Yeah. No, she is in the middle of it already. As an actor myself, I'm so afraid of coming off like this. Like on set, I can imagine a scenario where I would, just let them keep fussing over me and just try to work around it. But it is something to keep in mind when an actor is preparing. Some of them can work around it, and like you said, Keenan, and some of them need you to respectfully back off when they are doing their work. And we see that Chris is in this scene, even as she is walking to her mark. She is mentally preparing, and the other guy, the makeup guy, he comes back for one more little fuss. Right before this, you can see she is mouthing her lines. She is 100% focused. And this guy comes in to touch up her makeup, and she reacts again because her concentration has been broken. This poor lady is just trying to prepare for her scene. And it is here that our minute ends, right before our AD calls action on Chris. Gentlemen, is there anything else you want to add to this minute?
Yeah, actually, just to point out in the screenplay, which again is written by Blatty, about his alma mater, that he calls out what building he would like this to be filmed at. So he says, exterior campus of Georgetown University Day, a film is being shot in front of steps of Healy Building. So he is like, oh, this is the building I want. And I've seen that a couple of times in, say, J.J. Abrams' pilot for Alias, which we use in acting class here. He'll call out the Ackerman Union at UCLA. I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I mean, because that's the student union where I went to school. I mean, does anybody care, J.J. Abrams, when you're doing this? And then I haven't told you this, Andy, but I'm afraid of reading The Exorcist, the book. I've only read one chapter, and I need to sort of catch up. But in the author's note in the back, he sort of apologizes. Blatty does. He says, "I've taken a few liberties with the current geography of Georgetown University, yada yada yada." like I'm so sorry that it's not exactly how it actually is.
That's so funny. So
Georgetown University students are just like, wait a minute.
This is coming off the heels of a big movie in the 1970 called Love Story, which is set primarily in Harvard and Radcliffe. And the filmmakers of Love Story ruined like landscaping at Harvard and damaged 100-year-old buildings, and so they have now a rote like no movies are ever going to be able to film at Harvard ever again. And so like when we have later on The Social Network needing to film at Harvard, they're shooting that at USC primarily and a little bit of UCLA. So this is really Georgetown as far as I've been able to see.
Do you know if it's really Healy Hall?
I don't know if it's really Healy Hall. That's a great question.
Yeah. And yes, so folks, if we haven't mentioned it before, so Blatty went to school here. So he was a student at Georgetown University, and actually this is where he heard about the real story of, I guess his pseudonym is Roland Doe or Robbie Doe, the real boy who is supposedly possessed by the devil, and that's where he got his idea to write this book. I wonder how Blatty feels like coming back to campus, right? As famous author William Peter Blatty, as screenwriter William Peter Blatty, producer, and he's walking the steps and everything like that. I'm curious as to how he felt on that day.
Yeah,
no kidding. I am looking. I did just a quick Google search on Georgetown University's website. It does say one of the places they filmed at. It doesn't say specifically this scene, but it does have Healy Hall listed as one of the sites.
So that must be it. There we go.
Well,
he got his way.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Love it. All right. So, gentlemen, that is our minute. Do we have anything else that we want to add?
No, I think we got it, Lester.
Lots of stuff going on. Good minute.
All right. So, Keenan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
All right. And Andy, are you thinking what we're thinking?
Indeed, I am.
All right. So, folks, until next time,
the power of Healy Hall compels.